back to another week here at UCLA Extension about AP history classes and how to teach those classes to your students. Now, I know for me, when I go to professional development, the one thing I always want to get out of it is a concrete or practical idea of what I can do in my class the next day. In fact, those are the best types of professional developments I go to. I remember years ago when I first became a teacher, one of the best professional developments I got was a teacher who said, look, I'm going to give you some ideas, and on Monday when you get back into your classroom, you're going to be able to implement those on that day. That's the kind of thing that we teachers want and we teachers need. And so I wanted to focus in this week on different activities that we can do inside of the classroom. Now, I can imagine probably one of the biggest struggles you have in AP is keeping track, keeping on pace. And for a lot of us, it's very understandable when that happens, we resort right back to lecture. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of a good lecture. In fact, one of the best things I've heard about lecture is that lecture is storytelling. And if your strength is telling a story through lecture, feel proud about that. That is really important. And it's important that students get into the habit of hearing lecture. However, we know that there are a lot of tasks and skills we want students to learn. And those kinds of tasks and skills require them to do a lot of that work independently with our facilitation. The problem is, all of us know we've got to get that material across to them quickly so we can keep on pace. So how do we do activities that will allow us to have the students think and to do that sort of practical work while we are remaining on pace? And I'd like to show you how that's possible, because I think it's not so much how we tell students the information that we need as it is how we disperse that information to them. And there's a variety of ways to do this where we can give them the information not just through lecture and still be able to make sure that we have time inside of class to facilitate that learning. One of the ways, obviously, that I've talked about in week 2, and you've probably heard about, is the flipped lesson technique, in which you have them do some work at home through a video, and then as they come in, you have them do some of the active work they're going to do inside of the class. But I want to give you some ideas about, once they get inside of the class, what are some ways that they could work with that information that you've given to them. So, as done in many of the TV shows that you might see late at night, I'm going to give you my top 10 activities that I like to do with students when they come into my classroom after a flipped lesson video. Activity number 10, Mystery Box Challenge. I got this idea from the show Top Chef. I have the students work in groups. I give them a warm-up at the beginning of class, and it's usually some type of stimulus or multiple choice short answer underneath a box. They raise the box, and then they have to solve the multiple choice or short answer in a period of time. They compete by finding the right answer and eliminating the wrong answer. They have to then provide historical reasons for both, and typically I give them extra credit for the winner. Activity number 9, Kahoot. Kahoot is a really popular gaming website that teachers use for students. Teachers can create or find public Kahoots. They are multiple choice questions, and what they do is the students compete against each other using their phones or computers. They will see a question and then they can press upon a particular answer that comes in the form of a box. This is done under time pressure. They can use any of their devices. Kids love it because it's a lot of fun as a competitive way to go over information. Activity number 8, Quizlet Live. This is similar to Kahoot. You can find this at the website Quizlet or QuizletLive.com, except in this case, students compete in teams. They have to find which team member has the right answer to the question on their computer. The results are projected sort of like a racetrack up on the board. What's great about this is if a student gets a question wrong, the entire team is sent back to the beginning. So this really creates a great gaming environment, but it's also a collaborative gaming environment. Activity number 7, Socrative. This is another site that's very similar to Kahoot. Teachers can create games of multiple choice questions or short answers. The difference from Kahoot is that Socrative gives immediate real-time feedback on how the students did on their activities. So a teacher can see how much of the students in the class got a question right, got it wrong by percentage, and this allows the students to have some fun and allows the teachers to get a sense of what needs to be retaught. Okay, so these next two are really fun and they kind of go together. Activity number 6, speed dating with documents. Speed dating with documents has become really popular. The teacher sets up the room with separate documents spread out throughout the room, either on different desks or in different parts of the room. Students will get time with one document. I usually suggest about 3 to 5 minutes. Then they move to another document. They keep doing this until all the documents have been analyzed. There are several versions of this activity. You can make it into a game in which students operate as teams to analyze the documents and share out the information. Make sure at the end of the activity you do want to have some time to debrief the activity. So like I said, these two go together. Activity number 5, speed dating with historical roles. Similar to speed dating with documents, this activity has students move to different seats. But in this scenario, they take on historical roles. They do some research for their individual, then they interview one another in order to understand the different historical individuals within the class. Activity number 4, the digital whiteboard. Teachers can use Google Docs to complete lectures. We use it like a whiteboard. The difference is it can be shared out with the students, so students can interact with the teacher by filling out tables, charts, or other interactive elements of the lecture discussion. Activity number 3, shared essay writing. Place the students in groups. Assign each group an element of the essay, so contextualization, thesis, counter-thesis, evidence, conclusion. Then have each group write for their section that you gave to them based on a prompt on a shared Google Doc. Then have them go back at the very end of this and edit it to make the transitions. By doing this, students both create their sections and they correct other student sections so they see the mistakes and learn from them. Activity number 2, trials for historical figures. Assign the students a trial on a historical figure. Assign the class roles such like lawyers, prosecutors, witnesses, and juries. The students do a little bit of research on their individuals. The lawyer teams provide the introduction, questioning, cross-examination, and conclusions. The witnesses do research to prepare for questioning and cross-examination. Keep the questioning and cross-examination short, like about 1 to 2 minutes each. And at the very end, let the jury provide a verdict on the end based upon historical reasons. This then leads into a class discussion. So a new possible trend that's taking over in education is activity number 1, podcasting. The idea behind podcasting is that students record some type of narrative or description or answers to questions. And they do this and then post it online. Now, podcasting may seem very technical and difficult. We think of podcasting that you oftentimes hear on like iTunes, where a lot goes into that, but there's actually a really easy way for students to do podcasting. It's an app called Anchor. Anchor allows you to make a podcast, and you can even have at the very beginning of it, it makes it very easy to put like music at the beginning of it. So this gives students a great opportunity in order to talk about different elements from history, make interpretations, to post this, and then actually to post it online for other people to hear as well. So those are my top 10. In each of the 10 activities, students are doing the research, inquiry, or listening to the delivery of information outside of lecture. This frees the teacher to travel the classroom, observing and offering ideas, and this allows the students to practice their skills. I try to make sure every one of these activities is either centered around one or multiple skills. I would suggest pairing this up with the flipped lesson idea that we are going through this week as well. So what are our next steps as a class? My hope is that these 10 top activities are just the start. I'm looking forward to hearing about your great ideas. As I have said before, we have a collective wisdom in this group. I'm looking forward to hearing what you do in your classroom so that we can develop a bank of best practices for all of the teachers in this class to use. Thanks, and talk to you later this week.